What is up, guys? Welcome to another video, and in this video we're going to go over panel layouts. Remember, first starting off, panel layouts were pretty difficult. I picked it up right away after studying, comics. I would buy a lot of comic books, and I would go over them, see how they would lay them out. The best ones were ones where they showed the script and the page right next to each other. Usually, you can only see those in like special editions or hardcovers or whatnot. I remember the first one that I picked up was Hush. That was around years after it came out. They finally came out with a complete edition. I picked that up, and they gave you guys a great example of the script and how Jim Lee drew it, and that totally just made sense to me. After that, I started studying all the panel layouts and how to tell the story better and hearing interviews. And I'm hoping to kind of go over some mistakes that beginners make, mistakes that I've made, and also show you guys some examples of how the pros do it, some of my favorite artists, and how to tell the story and when to break panel borders and whatnot.
All right, so let's just jump right into it. Before I start, you want to keep in mind a few things when you're drawing your comic, or let's say if you're working off a script, a different writer gives you a script or something like that. You got to ask yourself the most important scene in this page, right? And then make that scene or panel the biggest one. So, for example, let's say if you're working on a page and it says panel one, establishing shot of an apartment complex, right? Panel 2, the guy's walking up the stairs into his apartment. Panel 3, he grabs his keys out of his pocket. Panel 4, he has the keys and he's putting them in the door lock and he's unlocking the door. And then the next panel, he opens the door and bam, a big lion pops out, right? You gotta ask yourself, what is the most important scene in that page? And the most important one is the last one where the lion is sticking out, right? And he's popping out of the door and he's attacking the guy. That is the most important one. So you gotta read each page and think to yourself, what is the most important scene in this page? And then make that one the biggest one. Because I've heard artists using the Manga Studio panel grid, and you do not want to do that. You want to use your panel layouts according to the script that writer gave you, or according to your own story, right? So for example, let's say you're working on another story. Um, I'll just use Spider-Man and Doc Ock as an example, right? They're talking, they're about to fight, but they're talking first, the first few panels, and then the biggest panel that you're probably going to draw is the action scenes, right? Doc Ock, punching Spider-Man. That would probably be the biggest panel that you want to draw, and then you kind of lay out your panels according to that. That's one of the methods I use. That's one of the methods that artists have told me how to use it, and here are some examples of some artists doing that. The first one is Jerome Pena. He keeps it simple. He hardly ever breaks the panel grid. By the way, if you guys don't know what breaking the panel grid is, let's say you have a page here. You have panel 1, panel 2, panel 3, 4 is long for whatever reason, 5, and then 6. Let's say this is breaking the panel grid. Let's say you have a character here and he's sticking out, right? That's pretty much breaking the panel, is when the character is sticking out of a panel. By the way, this is wrong. Do not do that. If you're starting off, you do not want to break the panel. You want to keep it simple, like this. Jerome Pena, I don't think I've ever seen him break the panel grid. He could have many times here. He could have broken the panel right here if you wanted to. You could have drawn the rest of the hair. That would be breaking the panel grid, right? And actually, if he did that, that would have been fine because it brings the reader's eye from panel 1 to panel 2. That would have been working perfectly, but he never done that. He could have also drawn the rest of the hair here and whatnot, but he doesn't do that. However, let's say if this guy's face is moved forward, let's say his face is moved forward right here, his hair is sticking out here, whatever, that would be a no-no because immediately your reader is going to want to read from panel 1 and then go to panel 3, and they would have missed that panel entirely, and that's a big no-no. You want to keep the reader immersed into that book or story. Now again, like I said, you want to lead the reader's eyes from one panel to the next, and Jerome Pena does that by a branch here. The reader reads left to right and goes here. He has this bark sticking out, so you want to go down to this panel, and then the bow and arrow or bow makes you want to go down to the last panel, and the arrow sticking out makes you want to go to the next page. That to me, this is the way I would go if you're starting out and you're showing your work to an editor. You want to make sure that you don't break any panel borders. You lead the reader from left to right. I would have probably flipped this one, would have worked better. Let's say like this, right? Because immediately you want to go to the next panel. But I mean, who the hell am I, dude? It's Jerome Pena. Let's look at another example. Here, again, he refrains from breaking the panel border. He could have done it here, and then the finger sticking out here, but he didn't. He could have also done it here, made this character bigger, and that would have been fine. Again, only break the panel border if it leads you the reader from one panel to the next panel. That would have been perfect. But if you did it here and everything else stayed the same, that's a no-no, right? Because again, your reader is going to go down to this panel and then probably this panel, and they would have skipped this one entirely. So this is why I'm saying, you know, don't break panel borders. But if you are, the perfect artist that you want to study is Olivier Coipel, and he does this a lot. Again, he breaks the panel border here, and that's fine because it keeps the reader from, it helps the reader rather, from going from panel 1 to panel 2. And then he goes panel 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's fine, easy. He keeps it pretty simple here. Again, this one is perfect because not only does he break the panel border right, but he also lowers your eye. Let me change my brush to white, brush color. So panel 1, you immediately see this figure sticking out from panel 2. So immediately you want to go to panel 2. And then not only is he sticking out from panel 1 to panel 2, he's sticking out onto panel 3. So you immediately want to go to panel 3. That's fine. Now, this is where it gets pretty awesome, where he lowers your eye onto the next panel. He has this Thor kick down this way, then punch this way, then bite this way, and again he breaks the panel on the last one, which is fine because it lowers your eye onto the next according panel. That's perfect. Now here's another example of Stuart Eminem. Here's a really good example of lowering your eye onto the next panel, and to make it more obvious, he breaks the panel border here and immediately lowers you to the second panel. And then here he kind of keeps it simple, pretty you know, textbook panel layouts right there. But also he uses the character's eyes to lower you to the next panel. So she's kind of looking down, and it makes you want to go from this panel to the next corner panel. And then she's looking this way, which helps you jump from the next panel. And then she's looking off the page, which helps you to the next page. Now this one is a page that I did for Aspen Comics. It's called Bubblegum. I did pretty much what Olivier Coipel did on this one, breaking the panel on panel 2, which is fine because it brings your eye from panel 1 to panel 2, and then he's punching this way, so your eye wants to go to the next panel. she's looking this way and her gun's going this way, so you want to go to the next panel. He's looking down, so that brings you to the last panel. So again, guys, work from top to bottom, left to right when you're working on your drawings, your stories. Um, and you got to ask yourself, what is the most important scene? Here, I thought the most important scene was them fighting the robots. Now, I have a crazy deadline here, or else I would have done like more robots jumping off here, more robots here. I just kind of did the silhouettes. So you always want to ask yourself that, what's the most important panel in this page? And go off of that, make that one the biggest. Next, you want to lower, or you want to help the viewer's eyes or the reader's eyes from one panel to the next panel. And then if you're going to break the panel border, do it as long as it helps the reader go from one panel to the next according panel. So for example, if I had this guy's head sticking out here, if I made this guy's head bigger, the reader would want to go from this panel to this panel, and they would have skipped this one. So keep that in mind. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I hope that I answered some confusing questions that you guys had, maybe starting off. I know when I started off, panel layouts were kind of hard, but going to cons and asking questions helped me out. Again, let me know if you guys have any questions in the comments below. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and on ArtStation. Until the next video, guys, I'll see you then. Bye.